Emmanuel Duncan, producer, musician, and arranger of Outbound Audio, one of the most successful studios, talks to Hitmakers about the way forward for the music industry in Grenada. Emmanuel Duncan, welcome to Hitmakers.
Thank you.
When did you first get involved in the music business, and most importantly, why?
I used to be a piano player. That's actually how I started up in music.
Musician and arranger.
At the age of 9, I lived with I lived with an aunt of mine whose all her sons played piano. And actually, it was interesting. They played what was on the radio at the time, and actually, that's where I think I got the interest from. Like, I wanted to play what was on the radio at the time as well. So, I remember cousin of mine, Clifford Campbell. He would, I distinctly remember, "Endless Love" coming out, Lionel Richie, Diana Ross, "Endless Love" coming out. Him sitting with a tape recorder, we didn't have CDs at the time, going rewind, play, figuring out on the keyboard until he could play the song, right? And I remember that's kind of where I really gauged the interest from. So I went to music lessons. I did a bit of music lessons, a couple of grades, 4 grades. So I kind of, started playing classical music like we do in music lessons, and then I taught myself to play by ear. I think the interest in arranging
musician
came
and arranger
when I was
Outbound
17 years old. Like,
one of the most successful studios.
I was in National College at the time.
Hitmakers about the way forward
with a couple of
for the
guys who
music
were playing
industry
music,
in Grenada.
Dylan, James, guys who would actually sing and play. It's interesting, like, we didn't have a band, but we always got together to kind of play little bits and pieces, sing little things, so on. And I think somewhere around that time, obviously I was playing everything on the radio, I kind of realized that actually I could hear the other pieces of the music as they go along. In my mind, somehow I could somewhat like hear every part of the music. I could actually hear that drum individually, the kick drum from the snare, from the hi-hat. I could actually hear what the piano was doing separate from the bass. And I obviously thought everybody could do the same thing until I started pointing things out, to the guys I was playing with, and realizing actually, maybe it was a little bit of a talent that was going on. So that kind of led into us. Obviously, when you play other people's songs, you eventually want to start writing your own song. So that kind of led into that, and started figuring out chords, how to play this, what the bass that goes with that, and stuff like that. So that's kind of how it came. I bought a little bit of equipment, a little keyboard that could actually record certain parts, and then we started to put songs together. That's kind of how arranging music kind of started for me. So it wasn't like I set out to be a arranger, producer kind of thing. It actually just grew from me being a piano player into like almost a very natural step, right? And I think along the way, meeting some of the people that I did, like who were interested in writing their own songs and stuff like that. Like I distinctly remember Dylan a lot because he and I did a lot of things together. Would have helped a lot in that regard, right? Me getting into the arranging. So like it wasn't a big dream of mine to jump out and arrange music and own a studio and stuff like that. It just kind of went on from being a piano player, right? So why did I get into it? Because it seemed like the next logical step, right? You wanted to do your own things. You wanted to kind of create some songs, right? So I would say like generally was out of a demand, right? This guy wanted to write his own songs. He wanted some original music. I was a piano player. It's kind of natural for piano players to be the ones that actually head into more of the arranging kind of thing in terms of recording and so on. That's kind of how it works out in the music industry.
How did the word spread about you and your ability?
Small country, even smaller group of people who are interested in actually doing real, good music. So I think couple of things about me, right? Like one, obviously I try to work with people who have real talent and people who are interested in actually what they're producing, not just trying to get a song on the radio. So there's a bit of perception out there, I guess, about Emmanuel Duncan that says, if like he doesn't work with everybody, and that's the truth, right? I don't actually work with everybody simply because I always tell people, hey, I can heal the sick, I can't really raise the dead. So it's a favorite saying of mine. So actually, if you come with like a decent song, it's got a decent composition, I can hear a verse, I can hear a B section, I can hear a chorus, and actually melody develops and there's some originality to it. I don't have to like it, but if I think it can be something, then I'm happy to work on it. If I think I can't do anything, there's nothing that I can hear that can actually make it any better, then I'd simply say no, I can't do it, right? And it doesn't mean that I like or don't like the song. It just means that as a producer, from my talent side, I can't do anything with it to make it anything better. Somebody else could take it and make it a hit. It's happened before, right? I've said, hey, I'm not doing something. another producer is taking and making a massive hit, right? Doesn't mean that the artist has succeeded, I've failed, and the artist succeeded. It doesn't mean one or the other. It simply means, hey, I as a producer, that wasn't my style, and that wasn't my type of music to do, and I just couldn't see what was in it. So I guess over the period, I produced one or two things. It's a fairly small core of musicians and producers in Grenada at the time. I remember when I started was maybe 1996, 97, somewhere around there. So it wasn't difficult. One song gets on the radio, somebody wants to know who did it, and find out eventually. It comes around. I remember people like Andrew Donald and Jericho being very instrumental at the time on the radio, pushing a lot of local music. That's when I started. I mean, I can't say for before. So that's kind of how it got out, right? You work with one artist, somebody else likes the sound of the song, they like the feel, and generally that's what I think artists come to me, to producers for, right? They hear something you've done that they like, and they think, you know what? Yeah, I'd like to sound like that. So they come for the sound, right? The sound or the style or the way the drum beat or the way the keys are played or the way the bass. They come for a particular sound of you, right? So that's kind of how it spreads, right? It's a fairly small country, and things just kind of. There's only like 5 or 6 radio stations, so everybody gets to hear everything over a period of time, right? Yeah.
Right. So from say 96, we don't want to fast track too far, say to 2009. Right. But was there any period between that time that you think was really a purple patch for music in Grenada since you started in 96?
In terms of a good patch for music in Grenada, like every year, like our music obviously operates around the seasons, right? Carnival, Christmas, maybe a little thing around Independence kind of thing, right? That's how it works. Every year there are the songs that come out that really hit you, right? Wow, that's a good track, right? Some of them are hits, some of them are not, right? Some of them nobody knows about. I remember this one track that I heard one time, produced by Fat Track Studio, right? Song called Fire, right? Nobody ever knew the guy. I can't even remember the guy's name, but actually it's a wonderful track. And if everybody ever heard it, they will think the same thing. The songs come out every year. There are some good songs that come out every year. From my perspective, I think, I feel that, we've grown over the years, 1996 all the way up to 2004. After Hurricane Ivan, I left Grenada for a few years. I only came back in 2007. So 2004 was the biggest year for me ever, right? So I felt that we were growing in the right direction, actually producing more and more music. Like in 2004, I went back to roots, got Dexter involved, Dexter Mitchell, and we produced the Jambalassi rhythm, which was, the massive thing that year with Never Say Never, PP, Zingo, all the boys. And actually, I think in some ways, that's the way to really get it out there, right? That's one of the models you can use to really get the music going. So that was, like, for me, the pinnacle of the thing as far as I'm concerned, as far as Outbound audio is concerned. For Grenadian music, I would say it's obviously improving. There's a balance that we have to achieve in terms of how much music do we output every year versus how much good music actually gets played. More and more people want to be artists. It's a way out. It's a good thing. It's a good thing to learn the artistic side of you, right? And actually, music is a great thing, right? Like it's always going to be there. It's always been there. I think we, as maybe the ones that have been in business a little bit longer, need to work a little bit more with the younger, musicians, producers, artists, and so that they understand what a song is. As an artist, producer, you've got to kind of respect the art in some ways, right? You've got to work your craft, respect, and actually feel everything you put out there. You may not personally like it, but actually, I would say that you'd have to respect it, right?